Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. Each episode will bring you in-depth discussion with experts, community leaders, and analysts who will share their insights, experiences, and predictions. From local elections to global diplomacy, we'll provide you with the tools and perspectives you'll need to navigate today's real-world landscape.
Welcome to Straight Shot Politics. This is Lisa Chafee. Tonight we're continuing our conversation with Chairwoman Meredith Freedhoff from the Franklin County, Ohio Republican Party and Vice Chair Andrew Havas. This is part 2. So we talked about education and how important that is. So also this year on November 7th, we have school board elections happening all over the state. I'm very involved in that, being Director of Parents' Rights and Education. Through Central Committee, you established the Education Committee. We've been working with some of our local school board candidates in Hilliard, Southwest City, Dublin, helping them prepare, giving them that kind of support that as a candidate they need, because these are not high dollar races. When I ran for school board 2 years ago, I think the most we raised was maybe $15,000, and that's not a lot of money when you consider how expensive signs are, the literature. Sure. It's not going to get you a whole lot of advertising. Yeah. But let's talk about how important it is to our society as a whole that we get good conservative people elected to the boards so we can start taking our schools back. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm so excited about the school board races this year. I've never seen more engagement, more people throwing their hat in the ring to run, and it's been driven by the anti-education, anti-parent initiatives that the schools are adopting. Yeah. When you say that your rights as a parent stop at the school door, we have a problem.
Exactly.
When you say that we're kind of controlling this and you can't know about it, those kind of things have really engaged people. And another thing that has really engaged people is the school board is really the lead of the school and of the superintendent to ensure fiscal responsibility, curriculum, big things. It's an important role.
They set the policies.
They set the priorities too.
That's right. And if they're not setting priorities, the activists in the administration or in different groups will control that if they can get a handle on it. And I think it's the only thing that came out of the pandemic was we saw on screens what our kids were hearing and seeing things in classrooms that we couldn't believe. And I thank God for that opportunity. Yep. I know there are a lot of working parents. I know that parents can't be as involved in their daily life of their students as they want to be. But when we were all home and watching it, it opened our eyes. And you have to hold administration accountable to the curriculum that they agree to teach. It has to be available to the parents, and fiscal responsibility of how those dollars at the school are being spent.
And that's a big topic in Dublin this time around. They're asking for a multi-million-dollar levy. Worthington just last year passed a 17% levy, permanent levy. Hilliard's going to be asking for a levy soon, and most of the people that I talk to, they're engaged more. They're asking more questions. Where are you spending this money? You're getting the money from the feds. You're getting money from the state. Where's all this money going? We need to know. And so that is bringing more parents involved. But like you said, the fact that they're telling us, no, we don't have the rights once our kids walk in the door, it's very scary. We've seen it nationally. Loudoun County, Virginia, what's happened there? We've got gender neutral bathroom issue in Olentangy in Upper Arlington. Olentangy actually passed a policy just recently, before the end of last school year, that if a student misgenders, mispronouns another student, they can be disciplined up to expulsion. Which they filed a lawsuit. It's been thrown out. They're going to
No, it's absolutely
regroup.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's wait a minute. What happened to the First Amendment? We want every child to feel valued as an individual. We want every child to be safe. But we also have to respect everybody's rights. And what I like to say is your feelings don't trump my rights.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not in favor of bullying. You know, I'm very much against bullying on any level, but then it's like, well, you have to define, like, okay, what is bullying too? Like you said, I think I could be demand that I called lots of things, especially like when I was a kid in school, but it's like, okay, we don't all have to comply with anything you want to be called. And the administration certainly, unless there's clear bullying going on, should not be involved in something like that, in my opinion. But like even in Ohio, when you look around the city schools, our proficiency rates in math and reading, English, the things that I would argue you get from an education that allow you to be successful later in life, they're failing. Like, so it's that, in my opinion, maybe there is some value in some of these other things we're talking about, but really it's trivial when our children are not literate. So we're sending them off to high school, we're trying to prepare for them for the world so that they can work and be productive members of society and take care of themselves and their families, but we are in the weeds on all these social issues in our school. So I think once we get our house in order when it comes to the very basics of allowing our children to be successful and giving them a chance of success, maybe we can talk about some of these other issues later, but we have to make sure our children have a chance of being successful. I mean, at the end of the day, right?
I think that's very well said. And it's a privilege for suburban schools to make this
that's right.
their main topic.
That's a great point.
Absolutely. It's a privilege and that 90% of the population doesn't have. They have one school, they go there, their parents work, and the parents expect a certain thing. The parents learned in COVID they aren't getting that, which is math, science, reading. But the kid comes home in 3rd grade and said, you know, I could be a girl today if I wanted to be. Did you know that I can be anything I want to be? You know, I've talked to parents that that's part of their lesson plan. And that's a privilege that maybe they think they have because they have the departments to do everything else, but really it's taken over to the point where children are scoring below 3rd grade reading level.
Well, in the city of Columbus, as of last year, which Columbus is the largest district in the state, 3rd graders, less than 10% were proficient in reading. In Cleveland, it's less than 2%.
Well, and then what you'll hear is, standardized tests is not a good way. Like, well, the overwhelming number of children that fail any just basic arithmetic or reading or writing exams, I mean, there has to be a way to measure success, too. So this idea where we're kind of like getting rid of standardized, like, where did I hear that? I know that they're starting to do away with the LSAT. Like, someone said something about the MCAT. I don't know. We were talking about that the other day, but I was like,
yeah,
where
because
does
it's
it end?
racist. MCAT's racist.
Well, that's okay, but how do you measure someone's competency if there's no way to test? I mean, there has to be a way to do that. I'll tell you right now, I'll go pay more money. In fact, it'll bring more money to the people that have those things, and it'll create a bigger divide. Because people are going to be like, with my health and my kids' health, like, I'm going to go to a doctor that I know passed the MCAT and went through medical school and did all the things they were supposed to do. So you're going to get the opposite effect, I think.
And that's another podcast I'd like to have with you. I have people that are working on that here.
Yeah.
But back to Columbus City Schools, because you bring up a great point. Why in our capital city do we have a failing school system that it's freezing in most of the buildings in the winter? It rains in the classrooms. Children are being handed guns through bathroom and drugs through bathroom windows. This is stories from teachers.
Yeah.
Any of our surrounding suburbs, if that were happening in their schools, that mayor would be held accountable.
Yes, that's right.
He would be out of a job.
Exactly.
Why in Columbus, and I'm a Columbus resident now, why in Columbus are we standing for that? Where is all the money that's supposed to go to the school buildings, to the supplies, to fixing the roof, to having heat, to having air conditioning, to making sure the children are fed?
That's right.
These things
100%.
are fundamental. And if, you know, in Hilliard, if that school system was a disgrace, do you think that the mayor wouldn't be held accountable? How
Exactly.
are we not holding Mayor Ginther accountable for that? And now we have crime, right? There was an armed robbery a block from where my OSU student lives today.
Right.
That's devastating to me. I've been upset all day about that. I'm sure many other parents are upset about the crime on the campus. That's another problem. We have one of the greatest universities in the country that people come here from all over. And now I hear people saying, well, you have a lot of crime in Columbus. I don't know if I'm sending my child here. I would rather them go out of state. And to hear that, you would never hear that 10 years ago. OSU was the best place to be. Everybody wanted to go, and now they're really looking at like crime statistics. Things like this are a cancer on urban cities, and this is not the Columbus I grew up with. I'm sure that you grew up with.
Well, I didn't grow up here, but yeah, and it was a different era. Like I said, I graduated in high school in '89. We didn't have this kind of stuff. But I argue that a lot of the crime is a result of what's actually happening in the school with the lack of holding students accountable when they do disrupt, when they do. We just had a situation in Hilliard where a student brought a knife to school and there was a fight. And we have it on video, but yet and we can see the knife fall out of the kid's hand and a teacher get hit with the kid's elbow. And the district has told students, if you talk about this, if you share any video footage, you will be suspended. Well, we didn't hear anything about what happened to the student.
Yeah.
They love this restorative justice. And the best way I can explain that for people to understand is they believe that if a student comes from a low-income family, a family that's broken, single-parent home, maybe one or two of the parents are in jail, addicted to drugs, you know what, little Johnny, I'm sorry you're having these problems at home, so we're going to let you slide. It's not your fault that you're mean. It's not your fault that you hit that person. And then the person that was that kid's victim, they just moved them to another school.
Well, it is. I have a heart for those children. I can't imagine.
Exactly.
I mean, I grew up in a broken home. I grew up in a low-income home, and I know Andrew did as well. However, there were no drugs, no alcohol, trafficking that's going on and the things that are going on now. I didn't have that in my home, and I have great sympathy for every child that is in that situation. And that's a bigger problem that we have to deal with the drugs coming through here, especially. Mm-hmm. And it all starts in the home. Everything starts in the home. And when the home is broken by those things and you have a child acting out because of it, it makes everyone else less safe.
Exactly.
So it's a bigger problem of what's going on under your roof. How can we help people more? And that's a bigger issue that we have to address, which is the drug addiction problem.
Yeah, I would argue that it's not helping the child. When I was in high school, there was things that would happen and some lessons that I would need to learn. And I was, fortunate that I was involved in sports. And a lot of my coaches became, kind of mentors and stepped into the role that a father would. But there was things that they called me out on that made me uncomfortable. But I look back on it, even at the end of high school, it helped me grow as a young man. And as I got older, I was like, thank God that those people were there and I had somebody that held me accountable. Because I probably would have been doing the same things and just ruined my life down the road. So you have to have people there that hold you accountable, and it doesn't mean that you're mean or we don't like you. The people that I hold accountable in my life are the people I like the most because I'm trying to help them. If you're friends with somebody, like, you speak up, right? If it's somebody that you're like, you kind of don't want to put the time and you don't care, you don't say anything. And so that's on a very primal level that I think people can understand. So, again, it makes you wonder kind of what the motivation is and
accountability, like you said, accountability is the most important thing,
Yeah.
and it doesn't apply to income.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
You can see some very privileged children that have no accountability, and they're in trouble too.
Agreed.
But if they're not, we have a justice system right now in Franklin County that's putting offenders back out on the street over and over and over again.
That's right.
And they know that. They're not going to be prosecuted. They're not going to be held accountable. So the little children that are suffering that don't get help then go to be bigger children
That's
that
right.
get in trouble
Exactly.
over and over and over with no judicial accountability. So those, we've let them down on every level. We've let them down from a parental level, and we've let the societal level, and then to a judicial level. And that's why I need people to pay attention to their judges. And it doesn't mean there's no reform, there's no mercy, there's no consideration
That's right.
for a child's upbringing, a child's circumstance. And that's what I would want people to know about the party, that we aren't, every criminal's bad, throw them away forever. Every human being is redeemable, but we're not giving them enough opportunities and learning lessons, like Andrew mentioned, to be a better person, to be redeemable. We're just throwing them back and throwing them back and throwing them back. And I think that's something that Franklin County really needs to work on.
Yeah, I mean, it's called the Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. I think there's neither one going on half the time. That's kind of the problem. People, I get it. They're like, okay, we get it. We did something wrong. We're going to jail. But I think sometimes it's, we shouldn't wait for people to be incarcerated before that happens.
100%.
Because then your life's just over. If you become a felon, I think we all know it's very hard in our society for, I think it's gotten better. And I think that's something that should be better. It's just because you're a felon doesn't mean you're, like Meredith said, you're irredeemable, or there's not, like, you have value still. And, you deserve to be out in society if you've done your time and whatever it is. But it's, can we prevent that from happening sometimes too, so people don't have to be incarcerated and go through those things? Like, let's help correct the problem while they're younger, so that they can be successful and they don't have to go through hard things like that,
I think that's one issue that as a whole for this country, both sides, Democrat and Republican, we have failed on.
I agree.
Is being proactive instead of
Perfect.
reactive.
Yes, that's very well put.
We wait until a situation happens, and then we're constantly trying to fix the problem,
We're
right?
chasing it.
Abortion is a prime example.
Yeah.
So we know that 2 million parents every year are waiting in this country to adopt a child. But yet there's 1 million abortions performed every year.
Yeah.
When I was in high school in the 80s, it was all about pregnancy prevention and AIDS prevention, because in the height, when AIDS was just first coming to light, right? Now in schools, they're not teaching pregnancy prevention. They're just saying, okay, which, by the way, in Ohio is against the law. They're supposed to be teaching abstinence in sex ed classes. But it's the same thing with the crime. Actions have consequences. So I think as a party, that's one thing maybe we can work towards, is building the bridges with the communities and finding ways to be more proactive with the community. Maybe it's going to be getting some legislation passed. I would love to see the heartbeat bill change to, say, 14 or 15 weeks, with the caveat that before a woman can have an abortion, she must have an ultrasound and have to see the ultrasound and hear the baby's heartbeat, and also give them education on adoption. So, and that's other legislation I know Attorney General Dave Yost is very passionate about and working on, is changing the adoption laws. So there's so many things that we can do as a party, and we're not the evil, far-right, Bible-toting criminals that the left, Nazis like the left likes to label us. I mean, yes, we have Christians in the party, but we also have gays and lesbians, and we have Somalis, we have Kenyans.
Well, there's a little bit of everybody, but I think I think popular culture and the media has done a good job at vilifying us as a very intolerant, bigoted party. And I would argue that there are those people, but they are on both sides. But most people are pretty much in the middle and pretty reasonable. But we've grown so far apart on issues that we literally just don't talk to each other anymore.
Exactly.
And that's dangerous, because if you look at history, it's like bad things happen after people stop talking to one another. And that's kind of like what we're seeing. If we actually just engaged in dialogue, we could probably be focused on the things, okay, first we agree on these things, and let's get to the tougher issues later after we get done, the stuff done that we agree on, right?
And you talk about, like, the immigration population, and it's large in Franklin County.
Right.
And I'm really excited about that, because they have convictions and values and customs and opinions that have kind of fallen by the wayside in America. And that breaks my heart. They're very involved in their children's lives. They're very involved in their education. They have meals together. You know, I'm meeting the Somali community, the Nepali community, the Hispanic community here that are all so overwhelmed by what their kids are bringing home from school.
Yes, that's
and
right.
that is bringing them to our party in droves. And then when you sit at a table, with a meal with them, you find out you agree with them about 80% of the time. And you know, Ronald Reagan would
That's
say,
right.
if you agree with me 80% of the time, you're my friend.
That's right.
And we can work together. And I'm really excited about that opportunity, because I think that, you know, I'm a Christian and our tent is large. It doesn't mean that you're only a middle-aged person of this race or this
Right,
color.
that's
It's not at all. It's all about the ideas and your values and what you want to fight for, what you think. You know, you want to be able to put a great meal on the table at night. You want to be able to take your kids to the movies. You want to be able to live your life in freedom. You want to be able to go to the grocery store and afford it. There's so many things, little things that everyone is bringing up now. It's actually very scary, because, and we talked about children playing sports. It's the best thing that a child could do to get out there. Do you know how expensive those sports are now?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they're very expensive.
When you hear that from parents and what they're dealing with, and just to keep their kids in a good place, it's making it the economy, which is the number one problem for Republicans, the economy. That's what we want to address mostly, right? Is the
Yes.
economy. And when you look as an individual family of what you can't afford, you have to, Bidenomics. How can you, you know, if you're against, you know, old white men that are privileged leading the country, how can you say Bidenomics is working for you? It doesn't make any sense. It's not working for anyone. And that's one reason I think more people are looking to our party. Unaffiliateds are looking to our party. And then they realize, gee, I can't go to Easton at night.
Or the short north, for that
Or the
matter.
short north at night. Think of that.
Well, it's hitting Hilliard too. I just had saw a post on Facebook of a 93-year-old woman was walking to her car at the Target there in Hilliard, and she was robbed in broad daylight. So it's what's happening, and this is why it goes back to the judges and why that's so important, that people need to pay attention at election time, and we need good quality judges to run. And we need to be able to expose, say, hey, this current judge sitting now has released X, Y, and Z person. They committed these many crimes this many times, and yet they were re-released and re-released. And that's how we hold elected officials accountable, is with our vote. That's the only way.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Andrew and I are dealing with the issue of, with the numbers and with the past elections of people that don't do that. Now, good judges don't want to run in Franklin County.
At least as a Republican.
Yeah, they may change their party to get elected or just drop out, and that's devastating to us, because we don't want that to happen and continue to happen to our city.
Right.
We want judges that'll stick to the law, give appropriate punishments for appropriate crimes, and then encourage people to get better.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say the specific judge, but I had an engagement on social media with one of our Franklin County judges not too long ago, and I wished her well, actually. I said, you know, good luck with the rest of your time on the bench. And she said, I think, you know, something to this, I think I'll be fine. I'm in Franklin County. I was like, no argument there. But I think the more salient point here is like, yeah, I think people know kind of what each side sort of represents. But in order for us to like give people confidence to undertake a task like running for a judge, it's a lot of time and effort. And anybody, Meredith, you know this from, you know, running for office, it really, like, you have to be doing it for the right reason, but you need the support too. Like, if you don't have support, which that means like money as well, you know, it's tough for us as Republicans in this county, like Meredith said, one, to find people that are willing to step up and do it, but then it's like, two, they're like, well, what the heck, I got to buy all this stuff for my campaign, I got to go around and campaign. How do we get our message out about what's going on in the county and about some of these great lawyers that would be great, fair, impartial judges? So it's just, we need to find ways to get people more involved. We encourage people to step up and get more involved. If you really care about these things as much as we all at this table do, you have to step up and get involved if you care about your society. And I think that's why we're involved in this to begin with, because we care about it very much.
And it's hard, like Andrew says, I devoted a year of my life to it. And I didn't understand, not being a politician, how important the money is, because that's every mailer, every post, every TV commercial, if you have that for your race. It's so important, that messaging and that name recognition. And it can be done. It absolutely can be done. But we need people, good people, to step up and say, I've had enough.
Right.
And this is what I want to do. And Andrew and I are here to support them and
guide them.
And guide them through the process. Because and to be a central committee member, it's really just knowing your community, knowing your convictions of, and I would just say, if you're concerned about economy, crime, and your schools, you need to be involved. Because those are the three things we're really fighting right now, to just have some common sense and get back to normal. Get back to reading, writing, arithmetic, and no knives in school, no guns in schools, no drugs in schools. Simple things, really simple things that have now escalated to big things. And I think that we're being distracted by all the other stuff they're bringing into our communities and the schools. Right. It's a distraction.
Exactly. And one of the things that people can do to get involved is we have, so I'm doing a little self-promotion here. We have the Central Ohio Republican Council of Clubs. We have clubs all over Franklin County, Greene County, Knox County. We're grassroots. Yep. We have meetings. I have a club in Hilliard. We meet the third Tuesday of every month. And we get together. As the president of the club, I bring in leaders in our community, be it office holders or other activist types people who are out there every day fighting the fight, sharing their information, what we can do to be involved. And not everybody can be out there knocking on doors, or they're not comfortable making phone calls, but you come, you get educated, and then you tell your friends. Share a post, send an email. But the best thing we can do is educate ourselves on what the issues are, what's really happening, tuning out the vitriol from the left, unfortunately, and that I think is also keeping a lot of people inside because they're afraid of announcing they're Republican. I actually have a friend who is the president of the Log Cabin Republicans in Dayton, which is the LGB club, and he actually told me it was harder to come out as a Republican than to come out as being gay.
I've heard that before. I have heard that many times. The hatred on the one side is just something I'm not going to buy into.
Exactly.
When I ran for office, I lost friends, and I didn't change a bit, and I still am. I consider them a friend. They just don't want to consider me one.
Right.
We're not going to play that game. And Andrew and I know when you put yourself out there like we are, there's going to be repercussions, but we need to have that courage to speak your truth and accept each other without that vitriol, like your friend was explaining. Mm-hmm. And your clubs, I've been to all of them. I know Andrew's been to many of them too. It's so nice to be around people that you can talk freely, even if you don't agree. And you have great speakers. You have office holders. You have statewide officials that come and speak. And where are you going to get that chance to meet them and talk to them and engage and make friends with people that you don't have to worry saying something that is going to upset them? You have to be so very careful now, anything almost you say, and it really shouldn't be that way. We should be able to talk to one another and be open, in a respectful manner without fear. And there's a lot of fear of people out and talking.
Exactly. So we've got November 7th. We've got on this election, we've got school boards, we've got city councils, townships, and we've got the marijuana initiative, which is not a constitutional amendment. It's just an initiative to change the law. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if I'm using the right word there or not. We've got for next after November 7th, then we get 1 day off. We take a breath, and then we start looking ahead towards 2024.
That's right.
What are your thoughts? What's going to happen in Franklin County? What are we working on to get that red wave to come back? Because we've also got, in addition to the presidential election, we've got congressional seats up for election again in 2024.
For the Republican Party, it's all about turnout. Turnout, turnout, turnout. Everybody needs to vote in Franklin County. The turnout numbers always disappoint me, and I think, what in the world? We have given everybody so many options right now to vote. The early voting, the mail-in voting, the absentee voting, in person on the day, however you choose, there is a convenient way to vote. Make your voice heard. Get to know your candidates. They're all over social media. They're on the radio often. Get to know your candidates. If they're already elected and they're running again, look at their voting record. Look at some things they've done. Be knowledgeable about who makes decisions that affect your life. I'm concerned this presidential election is going to suck the air out of the room. And people, that's sexy, that's exciting, that's dramatic. So people focus on that. And when I was running for rep and knocking on doors, I would say, please pay attention to your local races because you will have my phone number. I can help you. As for these people in Ohio, it's their responsibility to make sure that things are happening that need to happen for you. You're never going to pick up the phone and call the president and say, you know, what would you say to your mayor? A tree's come through my sidewalk. I really need help with this, you know, or a state rep that this happened to me at my office and I need this. And it's just making people be aware and letting them know their representatives, their Congress, Senate, all these people are there for Ohioans and they're accessible to Ohioans. So I'd like them to focus on that with the noise of the presidential election going on the same time. Because we have some really great candidates.
We do. Up in D.C., we've got Mike Carey, Jim Jordan, Max Miller from up north. And they all are very responsive. I have not been ignored at all by any representative, state, local, and national, that I have emailed that's conservative. Because I don't email the Democrats. I'll be honest. I don't waste my time. Because I do research. You know, I've testified at the State House several times on different issues locally. And I want people to know that all you have to do is go to Google Ohio State Legislature or Ohio State Senate, and you can find your representative, and you can shoot them an email from right there.
OhioHouse.gov,
OhioHouse.gov.
OhioSenate.gov, and they will be accessible to you. And I don't think the Democrats would email you back anyway.
Yeah, probably not. They don't like me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know,
I don't think they'd email me back either. Don't feel bad.
Yeah. And then, so we have a website for Franklin County GOP.
We are getting a new and improved Franklin
Yes,
County
very
GOP
excited about
website.
it.
So
Yes.
give it a week and fcgop.com. I'm very excited about that. There'll be resources there, information who your city central committee member is, numbers to contact us, an email, activities that we're doing, calendars of Republican events throughout Franklin County. Really excited about our new website.
Yeah,
that
me
was
too.
that was Andrew's baby, so he did a good job.
Well, I heard enough about it that I thought maybe we should do. I mean, I think it's important. It is. It's almost kind of like the face a little bit. Like, you know, in modern times, people go to your websites to check out what you're doing, and we don't want that to reflect poorly on the organization and the work, the important work that we're all trying to do, and the central committee members. So yeah, that was important for us to get that together. Yeah, I mean, I guess one last thing, just like as we do approach like the primary season, you know, there's a U.S. Senate primary too. I would just like encourage Republicans that, you know, regardless of what happens, and there's a big presidential field too, right? Regardless of who comes out of this, we need to make sure that we get united after with whoever comes out. Like, I don't agree with everybody on everything. Like, I don't even agree with my wife about everything. So it's, whether it's this person or that person, you're like, well, I don't like this about that person. I assure you, we have more in common with that person than the other person on the other side of the aisle. So we do a poor job sometimes of coalescing around whoever comes out of these, and we have to remain with our eye on the bigger picture. And I think if we can do that, we can be successful for a long time in Ohio. But it's, we're our own worst enemy sometimes, as we know.
Everybody's goal has to stay
Yes.
on the target, which
Yeah.
is Sherrod Brown.
Yeah, I agree.
That is the target.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
He is, his voting record's more liberal than Elizabeth Warren's. He does not match Ohio.
I agree.
And that is what we have to overcome, and that's what our goal is as Republicans here. And along with the website, we're also moving locations. So we're in the middle of a move that will be done in a couple weeks to the Destiny Center on Old Leonard Avenue. We're getting into the community and reaching out. So we've got a new location there, which I really am excited about.
As well.
So we've got a lot of changes with the Franklin County Republican Party. It's been a good year of Andrew and I getting our feet wet, learning everything we need to learn, changing what we didn't like, cleaning up what was broken,
That's right.
and now moving forward with strong committees, an audit committee, the education committee, the executive committee,
sure.
so many policy committees, so many good things happening that we're prepared when that red wave does come back that you brought up. We're prepared to be leading that and riding that wave because Ohio really needs it.
We do, and it's just so important that everybody realize that your vote, every single vote counts. You mentioned the turnout. If I remember correctly, last November of 2022, in Franklin County, only 47% of registered Republicans voted.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
And I know we hear all the talk about, the votes are rigged, the elections are rigged. And, that's been the discussion since the inception of elections. I mean, you go back to, you can even go back to JFK and a conspiracy theory there, although I think it's actually been proven, is how he got elected.
I mean, I would encourage, look, if people are worried about the integrity of our elections or how things are done, there's a couple things. One, we need to join this century, and if we have 28 days of early voting, I highly suggest that people take advantage of it. And if you're worried about something that's going on in the Board of Elections, for example, Meredith just got appointed to the Board of Elections. The way the early vote centers are run, the way the precincts are run, who do you think runs those places? People, just like us. So if you're worried about these things, stop sitting on the sidelines, go get involved, have some eyes on what's going on, and make sure things are done properly. Stop waiting for other people to do it. I mean, I think that's probably the thing that frustrates me the most is I hear a lot of bickering and bitching, forgive my language, but not a lot of people that want to do something about it. Learn about the process, see how it's done, be curious, and let's fix what you think might be broken so that we're not wondering what could have been. So, stop wasting time about rigged elections. I'm not saying there's not impropriety sometimes that probably happen, they happen everywhere, but by and large, Ohio's run well, and elections are run well. We just got to make sure, that things are being done above board and we're keeping eyes on things. There's nothing wrong with that.
So to summarize and recap, for the average person to get involved, if they really want to, we have multiple ways. Go to the Franklin County website next week, register, sign up. There'll be a place for you to fill out, a form to fill out to get involved. Come when we have central committee meetings. They're open to the public.
That's right.
Come.
And they will be announced on the website.
Right.
In the club meetings.
And come to our club meetings, Central Ohio Republican Council of Clubs. And our website is being refurbished too, but looking in your areas, we've got Hilliard, Westerville, Dublin, Gahanna, New Albany. There's so many choices. Reach out into your community. Consider running for Central Committee. It's not that difficult. You only need 5 signatures to get on there, and just find ways to get involved. We need help on election day. People at the precincts handing out slate cards.
I was just going to say that when Andrew brought up, I'm so proud of our Franklin County Board of Elections. Just let me say, I'm so impressed. I went through the last election with them. Was there that day and know the people working there, and I see the diligence and the time they spend and the fairness levels they have for every single vote and how important it is to them. So being part of that board right now is so eye-opening and valuable to me, and I appreciate all the hard work they've done. And I'm so grateful for the clubs this last time, the Republican clubs. They really stepped up as volunteers on Poll Worker Day.
Yep.
And that's an all-day commitment into the evening, so that was, I was so impressed. There are deputy jobs to do where they train you for the day. You get paid between $230 and $330. We always need more Republicans on that day to step up. So I was very impressed this year about all the people that stepped up, but I would encourage more people to do that. And additionally, if you are active in your community and you can give out flyers at the election sites on the day of election, or slate cards, which is the list of everybody's name and candidate on it, that's something that we need to get better at, engaging with the voters. And one thing you brought up too, about that turnout level, I would encourage everyone to talk to someone, and if you find out they haven't voted, they're not voting, ask them why and talk to them about that. Because we have a 50% of our population in Franklin County is disengaged. And there are reasons that they're disengaged. And how can we help them with those reasons if we don't know why they've given up with voting?
That's true.
I'd encourage people to talk to other people around election time when you're talking about candidates. Ask them if they voted. It's a great conversation to have. And if not, why? Because you've got 50% of that population in Franklin County that's disengaged. The Republicans are disengaged. The other voters are, people have tapped out of this. And why? Because until we find the reason, how can we encourage them to vote? Did they move and they think it's difficult to change your location? It's not. Did they change their name? It's so easy to do. You go on the Franklin County Board of Elections website and you can do everything right there. Whatever reason they may have, if they're disengaged from the national level, and the drama that goes on there, engage them in conversations and let them know how important Ohio is. We've seen now all these other states coming in with their priorities in their states, and look how that's working for them. That's not Ohio.
And another way to get involved is if you have a candidate that you're supporting,
Right.
reach out to their campaign. School board candidates especially need help with getting their information out there. You don't have to knock on doors, but you can just leave the literature.
Right.
Or social media, go to their events, or if you can donate a few dollars. But even above school board candidates, they all need help. So you can just they all have campaign websites. So you can go to their website. There's a form to fill out. I'd like to help. And even if it's just an hour a month or an hour a week.
And it's fun.
And it's
you
fun.
meet people. And $25 donation to a school board candidate in your district is huge.
Very big.
It means a lot. And every dollar gets spent on a sign or a card.
Exactly.
It's worth it.
Exactly. I can't thank the two of you enough for being here. I know we're going to have you back again because there's so many issues that we need to talk about locally and statewide. And you've got your finger on the pulse of it, what's going on statewide. So everybody just, Franklin County GOP, and get out and vote.
Get out and vote, and I have a lot of high hopes for Franklin County. I really do. And I'm blessed to have you on this team. I wouldn't be where I am without Andrew beside me. He's a great team player. And we're going to continue fighting, and
That's right.
we're going to see some wins. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take every Republican in this community to band together in Franklin County.
I agree. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks for having us.
Meredith and Andrew, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been a wonderful, enlightening conversation. And in the words of John Adams, remember, you will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make a good use of it. This has been Straight Shot Politics.